The second video is going to be, once again, this is Dr. Carl Farinelli, and we're in the summer session of 2017. And so I'll recap. The very first project is that autobiography. We already did a video about that. We'll post that. And it's covered in the rubric. So now I'm going to talk about the other 19 10-point postings, okay? The first one is that autobiography, the 3 paragraphs. But now the other 19 10-point postings will make up your discussion board grade. So if you're making 10 points per posting, if you got 10 points for your autobiography and then you do 19 more, what's the total number of points you could get for your discussion board postings by the end?
220.
200 plus if you reply 20 times. If you reply 20 times to your classmates, then that's a bonus. You can get that 20 bonus points. So yeah, 200 points possible for 20 10-point postings. The autobiography counts for the first one. The other 19, this is going to make this class so easy for you if you will strategically use these 10-point postings for upcoming assignments for the big projects. So think about that. Instead of having to do a project cold turkey, having to go out and do research, if you've already used one session to do 3 10-point postings about that next big project that's coming up, then not only have you already thought of 3 supports for it, and not only do you already have 6 resources. You know, the first resource, we'll talk about how each 10-point posting has 2 resources on it, but it'll make putting that paper together, that project, so much easier. And if you look at for those of you that have a portfolio assignment, if you're in the school administration program, each class has a big portfolio assignment. You could make almost all of these other projects support the big portfolio assignment as well. We call that kind of beginning with the end in mind, you know, strategically, systematically thinking, having the big picture of where you're heading and learning to sequence everything. It's systematic thinking. And so if you do this out in your school, you could, for the group projects, you could, number one, you could be on a group in your school. You might be in a public relations group or a problem-solving group. Otherwise, I would look at the other people that are meeting with you today, and I would share names and phone numbers, and I'd put me a group together today with your classmates there that you could get together either online or you could get together on your own live there, or you could even invite me to come over if you needed me. But you could do the group projects together. But these 10-point postings are going to be individual 10-point postings. They have 5 steps, so let's make sure we cover those. It's on the rubric at the end of the syllabus. So if you go to your syllabus, and the nice thing is the 10-point postings, even though the topics will be different in each class, they are the very same format in all the classes. And sometimes, you know, like if you're doing a public relations topic that is also about your facility, about, say, a bond issue or something, then you might wind up using a 10-point posting in 2 classes. That's called a twofer, using my folk sayings. You know, when you can use a 10-point posting on 2 different classes, that's perfectly legal in my classes, as long as you really do cover topics that fit both classes. Now, don't just do a 10-point posting that fits one class and repost it in the other class where it doesn't fit. You know, that's more like kind of, you know, unethical activity. So don't do that. You're school leaders, and you're going to be, you're already teacher leaders, I hope, and some of you are going to be curriculum leaders and principals and things of that sort. So make everything that you do above board and very helpful to you. So number 1, the first step on a 10-point posting is that you choose a topic that is meaningful to you. And what I would do is I would look at the upcoming big projects, those 100-point projects or 50-point projects, and I would cover a topic that will support one of those. For example, in public relations, you know that you're going to do some group projects where you're going to look at some of the public relation plans of districts and crisis plans also, crisis communication plans. And then in the end, you've got to do a big portfolio project for your program portfolio, where you put together a survey of your stakeholders and how to improve the communication plan for your district. So look at those assignments that are upcoming and try to do some 10-point postings that will support those. Choose topics, and if you choose to use one of the optional textbooks that I've listed, you could also go through the textbook. You can go online and look on online websites. A sneaky way is to look at some of the old postings from past classes that I include for you, and look what some other people have posted and projects that they've done. But your best source is going to be your school and each other. So discuss ideas with each other that will fit these projects, and talk to your teachers and your administrators, your parents, other stakeholders at your school. Those will give you great topic ideas. So, number one, you're going to choose a topic and tell me the source. If the textbook was your source, name the text and the page number. If this class was your source, just put tonight's date, and you could use me as your source or one of your classmates there. If you go and have a discussion with some of your fellow teachers at your school, hopefully you have their phone numbers since it's summer, you could use some of them. Parents in your parent organization, your principal, your superintendent, any of those could be sources. You could use the internet. You could go and Google some ideas related to, say, for the public relations class. You could look up communication plans for school districts. You could look up crisis plans for school districts. If you belong to any professional organizations, you might look in your journal. There's certainly, if you go to the library, we have journals for school public relations in our library. So you could do this in many ways. You can buy a textbook if you want to, or you can kind of create your own textbook in the field using your school and your stakeholders as your sources. So, number one, you're going to put a topic and the source. Number two, you're going to do a description. You're going to describe that idea, that topic that you put. So that can be your own words, or it could be a quote directly from me or from our Blackboard page. Another resource that I provide for you, I have a bunch of papers on the iDrive. So if you've never researched the public iDrive, then you might want to talk with each other and discover how to do that tonight. We could actually talk you through it later if you'll ask me about it. How many of you have used the public iDrive?
No, we were talking about what that was earlier, so we'll want to probably...
It's going to be so valuable because many of your professors provide a lot of papers on there that are helpful to you, especially old professors like me that have been around forever. You know, this is my 30th year, so I've got a lot of documents in the Farinelli folder. They didn't have room for my full name, so it's called the Farinelli folder. They dropped the I. But there's a lot of papers that pertain to our school administration program. The School Administrator's Handbook. I don't think that it's been updated yet. I think it's still 2014 version, so some of that information is old, especially the rubrics for these portfolio projects. Don't depend on the rubrics that are in the handbook. Go to Dr. Farrell's website, the School Administration Program Blackboard website, and look up the rubric that is attached to where you have to submit your project for the program, and use that rubric for your portfolio projects. Yes, always sad to use the wrong rubric and then you wind up missing some points because it was an outdated rubric. So, number one, you're going to put the source of your idea, the idea and its source. Number two, a description. Number three, you're going to find an outside second source, a related source. Either might support that idea or it might contradict that idea. So you're going to go somewhere else besides where you got the first source. You're going to, like if you talk to someone at your school, then you might go look for something that's related in a journal article or online. You might talk to your fellow scholars in this class about that idea and use them as your outside source. So you're going to give a second source. So you've already got two sources now. And that's going to allow you then to do step number 4, which is to tell why you think that idea will be useful to you. Now that's the fifth curriculum. How I will really use this idea. You talk about one idea that you could do a great project in your school when you get to internship 1, it would be simply getting many teachers to ask their students, how will you use this class? How will you use the math that you learn in math? How will you use the English that you learn in English? How will you use the science beyond this class in the real world, in other, in years that follow, in high school and in college or out in your job or in the real world. So the fifth curriculum is asking, how do you really use what you're learning? And so that's what I would ask you to cover in step 4. Why did you choose that topic? How are you really going to use that topic? And hopefully having those 2 sources already will help you to think about that. So that's where you personalize it. That's where you're going to become analyzing and synthesizing is what Bloom would call that. Taking the idea, analyzing it, putting it into your world. And then number 5, tell me something creative that you would use to lead a discussion group, or maybe a question that you would ask, or maybe a question that you think might be on the state test pertaining to that idea. So be creative or evaluative with step 5. Either write a question or a discussion point. Could be a joke, could be a cartoon, something funny about it, Try not to be too risque in our class. We have some pretty polite people that take these classes, so be careful. But just do something interesting that would be a high interest idea to get someone interested in that topic. So does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so number 1, you're going to have your source and the idea, the first source, your idea and the first source. Number 2, a description of that idea. Number 3, a second source that's related to it. Number 4, how you're going to use that idea, why you like that idea. And number 5, either a question or a discussion point, something creative about that. And if you do that, then you'll see that you've gone all the way, as Dunn and Dunn would say, you've gone all the way around your brain. Bloom would say you've gone through all the levels of his taxonomy. Gregork would say you've been abstract random, and then you were abstract sequential, then you were concrete random, then you were concrete sequential in your thinking. So it's just a way to make your brain fully go through an idea and to make it yours. So unless you have a question, that's the format for the 10-point posting number 2 through 20. Okay.
Can I ask a quick question?
You bet.
Because you mentioned using, session 2 then is our first 10-point posting, and session 3 is actually midterm, where we would use possibly 3 of our sessions, but we haven't done all 3 of those sessions yet. So what do you recommend doing? How do you recommend doing that?
If it were me, I would be using this session, because I'm trying to lead you through some 10-point postings right now. And so you have the option. You could go ahead and be assembling some 10-point postings. You might even want to get together with your fellow scholars there when we finish and kind of co-compose some 10-point postings for classes that you have in common. So yeah, that first one, we get off to such a rapid start that it's going to be difficult to come up to speed for that very first assignment, right?
Yes.
Then after that, fortunately, then I think every other one you pretty much have a session in between with 3 10-point postings, right?
We only see sessions 1 through 4 on the board, but here's my question. So in session 2...
Well, I'm sorry, go to the end of the rubric of the syllabus, and it should have the full calendar for you.
30 seconds.
Okay, so let me turn this video off, and then we'll come back for a third video. So I think we're out of time on this one, so let me turn that one off.